Welcome to the Master Your Millions podcast, the show all about your financial potential and leaving a legacy for future generations. Here are your hosts, Jason and Scott Henderson.
Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Scott Henderson, and my co-host is Dr. J. We are extremely excited for our guest coming on the show today. Jason, who do we have coming on?
Scott, a lot of people out there that are entrepreneurs, they think sometimes there's an easy way to it. And one of those that can be very successful and sort of iron out the bumps is to get a franchise. Today, we have Adam Goldman, who has a lot of experience in the franchise world. In fact, he has published a book called The Franchise Lifestyle that we'll talk a little bit about that. A little bit of background on him. He is originally from the Northeast, but he currently lives in Houston, Texas with his wife and his 3 daughters. Yes, he is a girl dad like you, Scott, and he has a t-shirt to prove it. So I think you need to get one so you can be twinners. Hey, Adam, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Jason. My pleasure to be here.
So tell us, why franchising and how is that? Some people see it kind of like a business in a box. I pay a fee and they teach me everything I need to do and I'm successful. I know that's not how it goes, but that's what people think. So tell us a little bit more about that arena.
So look, what I would say, Jason, is this, that my experience is that not everyone's right for franchises, right? So I think there are different types of entrepreneurs. You have people that start businesses up from scratch. And that's just kind of a unique animal, right? You got to do everything. You wear many hats, just like Gerber talks about in the E-Myth, how hard that might be to wear all these different hats as someone starting business up from scratch. And then you have something called ETA, which we call entrepreneurship through acquisition, right? And that has certain advantages. If you can find that unicorn, that right business at the right price, that's amazing, right? But we all know that it's finding a needle in a haystack. And then we have something called ETF, which is entrepreneurship through franchising. And it takes a different type of entrepreneur, someone that frankly is not afraid to follow process, not to reinvent the wheel. It's a kind of person also that sees the benefit in mistakes that they otherwise would have made if they did not follow the system that a franchise brand gives them. Because when you're buying a franchise, it's like riding a bike with training wheels or starting a business with training wheels. And so for the right person, it can be a really, really good path.
Tell us a little bit about that type of person, right? We have listeners from, I think it's probably quite a range, and we've never ever talked to someone who's a franchise person. How would someone know that they are, and I'm putting air quotes here, the right person to be a franchisee?
So Jason, one of the great things about my business is that I'm in a business where I have 75 different industries, right? And I have all these different flavors when it comes to what you're doing day to day or how involved you want to be or not. There's one overarching theme with franchisees. They really have to be good business people, right? If someone says to me and they say, hey, look, I don't want to put any time at all. I've been an art student. I'm just going to run this passively. I just don't think that franchising is a great fit for them, right? Maybe they should buy an ETF or an index fund. But if someone has any sort of business experience, I'm talking about it could be from the HR side or the operations side or the sales side. I have different types of brands that I connect them with that could potentially fit what they're looking to do.
So then you are a go-to guy when someone wants to start a business, possibly a franchise, for the fact that you can offer them a franchise from several different businesses.
I have 75 different industries that I connect potential investors with, and all of my brands are pre-screened.
So when you say 75 different industries, could there be 5 different ones in the restaurant industry?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's really a lot more than 75.
It is.
I want to put a fine point there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And look, I'm glad you brought up restaurants. We know about Crumble Cookie here in Houston, right? What I can tell you, and I think that's a Utah-based company.
It is a very good choice.
But what I would say is this, that restaurants is just one of the 75. every once in a while, I do make some restaurant placements. That's not really the big part of my practice. And many people tend to gravitate towards other businesses that might have higher profit margins and better lifestyles than the restaurant business.
So when someone would contact you and say, okay, I want to get into business, say what do you call it, ETA kind of, right? Entrepreneurship through acquisition. They're going to buy a business. You interview them and say this, then you kind of make a suggestion to them. I mean, help me a little bit.
How does that process look?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, if someone, I don't actually connect investors with existing companies that are in their home market, right? I'm connecting with something that's working maybe in an adjacent territory or a market like theirs that they would start it from scratch in their specific market. So I don't really do with resales like a business broker. And so the first step of my process is I first try and get to know people a little bit with an initial chat. It's all that, by the way, my service is free. And then after they fill out a survey, I really try and get to know them and whoever else is involved in this decision and kind of it's kind of like a matchmaking type thing. We're talking about eHarmony or Match.com, where I'm just trying to find out all about them, things that kind of make them tick, what kind of ideal characteristics of a business that they're looking for, because the more open-minded they are, the better matches I can make for them. Then I write this 2-page letter or model where I'm not even worried about brand, just more focused on characteristics of an ideal franchise. Things such as headcount, how many employees you want. Are they blue collar, white collar? Do you want to run the business semi-absentee? And then I kind of connect them with these top 3 brands, and then we go through the investigation directly.
So tell me more about part of how you introduced us and stuff was it's called the Vanguard Cleaning Model.
Sure.
I mean, what is that all about?
So I've always been the kind of person that just never really fit into corporate America. And when I graduated from business school,
neither do I. I couldn't play well. I didn't play well with other kids in the sandbox. That's all there is to it when it came to work.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And so graduated from business school, kind of gravitated toward real estate investment. That went really well for a couple of years, especially after not the pandemic, but the Great Recession in 2008. I bought post-recession, which was just luck, and just kind of didn't know what to do next. So I saw a franchise coach, and that person recommended a few different options for me. So I'm also a franchise investor, and I decided to invest in an office cleaning master franchise. And I owned that for 8.5 years. And that was a really fascinating experience in that I was a franchisor, meaning I sold franchises in the Houston area to unit franchisees, cleaning companies. I actually did my training in Salt Lake, which was an amazing experience for me with one of the amazing master franchisors. And I also was a franchisee, meaning the parent company was based in California.
So you bought a territory, then had the right to resell franchisees.
That is exactly what I
I
did.
know
We call
that
it a master franchisor.
Right. I remember my wife and I were at this hotel in Southern California, and while I was still at school at Caltech, and it was they were having this exclusive event for people that wanted to buy. I guess you'd call it like a franchisee, but you're buying the state, right? For Krispy Kreme donuts. She's from the East, and that's where they started. I'm not sure exactly where, but she grew up in Virginia, and she knew all about Krispy Kreme. She goes, "Oh, Jason, these are the best donuts ever." Blah 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 blah. But these guys were there saying, "We're going to buy the state of California or the state of Utah, right?" And that's what they were doing, and then turn around and selling as many as they wanted to within that territory. So that sounds like that's what you did.
That's
Are you still
exactly
doing
what
that?
I did. No, I'm not. So look, I wasn't trying to exit, but I was just kind of running this business. It was going well. It was frankly more fun to build it than to kind of maintain it. Because when you have all these clients, it's inevitable you're going to lose some of them, right? Whereas when you're starting out with a few clients, you don't have as much attrition or churn. And the person that owned Austin and San Antonio and New Mexico decided to invest in my business, decided to go ahead and purchase my territory. And that's how I got started in this. I just didn't know what to do next. And it's been a really great ride. I've been doing this now for 7.5 years.
Wow, that's kind of cool. what would you, Scott, do you have a question? Or I have another question, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're doing good.
Okay. I was going to ask, and it's a little bit of changing gears. What does wealth accumulation look like to you? Right. This podcast is all about accumulating wealth, enjoying wealth, and passing it on. What does wealth accumulation look like to you?
And I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Do you ask for me personally, or are you asking for my candidates in the franchising world?
No, you personally.
Cool. Well, for me, wealth accumulation is doing what I want when I want to do it. That's period. I mean, that is really what wealth accumulation is, to have options and to not have to worry about how much something is or not.
And why is it that you want to have such control over your time?
Because time is the most valuable asset, right? I, like you said about not fitting into this corporate mold, Jason, I'm the same way. I mean, I get pissed off, excuse me, I probably shouldn't say this in the podcast, but I get upset when anyone wastes my time, right? Because that's the most valuable thing that I have, to spend time with my kids, to do things that I like to do, like exercise or train for a half marathon or wherever that might be. But this freedom, or to travel as a family, that is such or spend time with friends, that's such a gift. And I really don't take that for granted any day.
Okay, what are, in your realm, what are your key vehicles to building wealth?
So me personally, the best way that I've had to build wealth right now would be, and it's just kind of by default, I would say, but it is through index fund investing, right? It just kind of happens to be that I do have a lot of retirement accounts and different investments in the stock market through different vehicles that I frankly can't use other vehicles for. I do believe in a diversified strategy, and I do believe franchising really can come into play for the right person. But look, I would say the vast majority of my wealth now is tied in in equities and in the stock market and index funds. And frankly, it's challenging short term when you have a situation where it goes down, like we had in 2020 or 2022. And I just have to put my my passcode and lock and key and ride it out.
Not be emotional. It sounds like to me that you have had some experience with options though as well, correct?
A little bit with options, but you know what? I've never really had great experience with them. I'm a big believer in, I've dabbled a little bit in crypto, right, as well. But like for me, options, I think that how kind of like I'll never forget this, Jason. I went to Las Vegas after I graduated from business school, and he said, you know, Adam, the city is not built on winners, right? It's built on losers. And I'm not saying everyone trades in options as losers, but the house always wins on options. It's so hard to make money in options, in my opinion. I mean, you can kind of dabble in it, but like for instance, GameStop. I knew GameStop was going to go down, but I didn't know it would go down when it did, right? And lost some money on an option on that.
So you've struggled a little bit with that. Scott, you want to say something there? I know Scott dabbles with it. That's why I brought it up. You want to say something there, Scott?
I I agree with that. That's why you play as the house. So I tend to sell strangles rather than buying options, and that seems to do well. We've gone back and forth in the different ways that you've had experience and made money, and it sounds to me that most of your experience is in real estate and franchising, correct?
That's correct.
What are common mistakes that you see when someone first comes in as a franchisor, or in wording it another way, on those that fail, what are those common reasons on why they end up failing?
So that's a
So you're
great
talking
question.
franchisor or franchisee? Sorry to interrupt.
The E, franchisee,
Okay.
because that's who he's selling to.
Yeah, exactly. So great question, Scott. And I never knew about this options. I'm going to look it up. But look, what I can tell you is this, that so according to the statistics, only 10% of new businesses succeed, right? The franchising one's higher, meaning it's not 100%, right? But it's got to be higher than 10%. Anecdotally, I've found that it's a lot higher than that. Over half of the people that I know in franchising succeed. My point is this, though. The people that don't succeed are the ones that, for whatever reason, it's just really, frankly, it's quite simple. you got to follow the model. Yes, there can be different black swan events. Maybe you bought a fitness studio right before 2020, you were undercapitalized, you had to close, right? These things happen, but the real big reason why, and I actually have a silver bullet on my desk to remind myself, and I also encourage my candidates to do this, that you got to just do that one more thing, right? Maybe you haven't made good enough friends with that person at the franchise brand. That's the person that is your consultant that helps you with different things. Maybe you could make one more call to other people that are existing franchisees to see what's going on. Maybe go ahead and review that model again, that manual. I go through my manual and I find out new things, even though I've been doing this for 7.5 years, right? So just that extra thing that might be the difference between success and failure.
Okay. And are most of them, I know you said at the beginning that some of the franchises are designed to be semi that you're there. I can't remember the word that you used.
Semi-absentee.
Yeah, absentee. And then some of them are probably more owner operator, like you're owning the business, but you've got to be there and involved. What typically are the differences between the two, and can most of them eventually transition?
Great question. Look, the difference between the two is that there are certain businesses, frankly, where you become the mayor. And I'll give you an example. If you do a home health care franchise, we look at the silver tsunami, right? Just a lot of demand for companionship and non-medical care for seniors throughout the United States. I don't really believe that that is the kind of business that is semi-absentee. Let's talk about something like a business that might be food, right? Food, you have one emergency after another. 2 a.m., your HVAC breaks. Yes, you might have a manager, but you kind of really need to be involved like 24/7. But there are certain businesses out there that work really, really well where you could potentially have a manager. And I find that typically those are ones that don't necessarily have, maybe you have a manager that's already running it, or maybe ones that have low employee headcount. I have certain businesses that really are real estate related investments and very, very low headcount or even no employees at all. And that's the kind of thing that after you build up, whatever that might be, a real estate build out, that you don't necessarily need to spend much time at all on the business.
Okay, so if that's the case, then certain industries tend to, just like what you're saying, is certain industries tend to be easier to be semi-absentee than others, correct?
Yes.
What would be those industries if you had to give me a top three?
That are better at semi-absentee.
Hmm?
I would say, let's just kind of say real estate is first, anything real estate related, right? So real estate can mean many different things, right? It could be a laundromat, right? It could be a salon suite. It could be whatever that might be in real estate, number one. Number two is any business has any sort of thing where you have anything medical related. You might buy a medical practice, right? Many medical practices are franchised where you have a business person that is in charge, but you have a doctor or someone else, attending physician or whoever that might be, that's actually running the practice. So that could be a lot more semi-absentee because maybe you're not a doctor yourself, and that's okay. You're kind of running the business side. They're running the day-to-day for medical. The third one that would come to mind is, I'm just going to kind of cast a wide net. I would say service businesses in general, but my caveat for both of you, Scott and Jason, is that it's got to be the kind of service business that has really, really good systems and processes. So for instance, I've heard of different businesses that are service businesses that have these amazing apps, right? Where the service is so buttoned up that you don't necessarily have to be there all day long and on top of everyone, because it kind of runs itself in many ways through the app or the systems or processes.
So are there any industries that you would say would be fully automated rather than fully absentee rather than semi then?
No, I wish I had that, right? Because that'd be great for my industry, right? If I'm saying, hey, this is just like a Vanguard index fund, put X amount of money in, don't even worry about it. Go to your computer and go to your mailbox and collect money, right? But there's just, it's just reality with business that you got to spend some time and oversee it. And some people are more apt than others at managing people or managing the most amazing system, right? But you got to have some sort of acumen in management to run a semi-absentee business.
Cool.
When you're a coach with those type of people that are getting into a franchise, have you ever worked with someone that's maybe starting out and it's like a one-man show in the franchise? Because some franchises are. I mean, I have a friend that bought into a carpet cleaning franchise and is a one-man show. He, one van, one. Is there coaching or places to learn? Say, okay, this is what you need to do next. Is that all on the franchise? Or I mean, and if they feel like they're lost, where do they reach? How do they know how to build? Because I think everybody, even in a highly present industry such as carpet cleaning, where you started, or some other industry, service industry that you're talking about, in order to build, they don't know what to do. How do they find that out?
So we call it a chuck in a truck, right? So what I would say is this, Jason, the great franchisor, right? Even if it's a one-man show, and look, some brands are only one person, right? Maybe it's something that's sales related. Maybe it's something where someone wants to be an owner operator, right? Maybe, so I have businesses like that. But if the franchisor is great and they give you an amazing brand and an amazing system, it's in that manual. It's in these other franchisees that are around you that could be your mentors. It's also from the people that are at the head office that can tell you and can teach you, that really care. And look, franchisors and franchisees are absolutely aligned when it comes to growth, because of the franchise model. The more that money that you make from a revenue perspective, the more the head office makes. And thence it's in their interest for people to succeed and to grow their business as well.
What's been your experience for a franchisee to mentor another franchisee?
I can speak for it myself, right? I mean, like when I was looking for franchises myself 14 years ago, that was so important for me to find a system where you have other franchisees that help, right? If you look at McDonald's, all these different initiatives, innovations like the McFlurry or the Egg McMuffin came from something that a franchisee decided to do. And for me personally, I was so grateful for these people that I had inside my system. I was able to to send my staff to Minnesota to be trained, just because it was the right thing to do inside the system. The right sort of brand has a situation where franchisees care about each other, and they realize that if you have a great system, everyone succeeds.
A matter of having enough guts to ask for that help.
And look, these are not my competitors, right? I'm territory protected, right? The person in Minnesota gets nothing bad happening by helping out my person.
Yeah, yeah, that makes. I'm thinking of a couple of people I know that are franchisees right now and how they could potentially grow their business by doing exactly what you're talking about. You know what I'm talking about, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, Adam, I mean, was there other items? I mean, you're franchise coach, you're consultant, you can help people. Do you have your one book, right? The franchise lifestyle, and
It's
that's
actually the
available on Amazon,
franchisee lifestyle.
and the franchisee
It's
lifestyle.
called the franchisee lifestyle. Here, I have it right here. Franchisee
Okay.
lifestyle. And then we have your future as a COVID-proof franchisee, but we're post-COVID, so that's not as important.
We'll put that link in the show notes, but that's available on Amazon, Adam.
Yes, it is. Both of them are.
Okay. We'll put those link in the show notes, everybody. I mean, it's really cool because this is for some people that want to step out and they want to be an entrepreneur. This can be I don't know if safe is the right word to use, but this is a path that which can be very fruitful for you. because there is a program. You keep saying refer to the manual. What is this? Well, you follow the program, you're pretty much going to be successful, right? And I don't know, you said about more than 50% of the people that you've helped have been turned out to be fairly successful, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Where versus rolling the dice and saying, okay, I'm going to start this business, whatever business is, on my own, and there's a good chance in 1 year you're gone. A 90+% chance that you're gone, where that's just not the case. I wonder though if the 10% or 90% of businesses that fail in the first year also include franchises. And so the reality is non-franchise businesses fail at a much higher rate, so that when you put in the franchisees, that it averages out to 90% of it. So I'm sorry, we went a little bit past when you said your key vehicles. Most you said was inequities, but you talked about real estate earlier. Are you still in real estate at all?
I am. I was really blessed to be in a state like Texas that is very landlord friendly, right? And I found this interesting niche of owner financed houses, right? Where I bought single family residences 14 years ago, right? Or even 16 years ago. And I still have them in my portfolio. I have about 10 of them in my portfolio, and I am owner financing them still. And I just love that market. I'm not taking care of any sort of repairs or rent. It's more notes, owner finance notes. And it was a really cool niche. And I would snatch up as many of these as I could at the right price. But the challenge I've had recently is that I wasn't able to invest in more of these because a lot more people kind of found this out. So I can't really do this strategy anymore.
Yeah, you get into something that's you got to enjoy it while it lasts, because it can go away. I mean, the real estate in Utah, for example, to a large degree, it's a very difficult market to be invested in right now. There's still niches, like you say, in certain types of sizes, if you will, bigger plexes and different things that maybe pencil out and make sense. So that's also another thing you mentioned is the debt notes that you have experience with. Is that mainly what you were talking about just a second ago? Is there a different type of debt note that you've worked
That's
with?
debt notes that I'm talking about right now. And look, I also participated as an investor in like 4 or 5 different real estate strategies. One of them is I believe that I don't have frankly, I'm so busy and focused on franchising that I have people that I trust that are people that actually are working full time in different real estate niches. And I like to kind of invest in those that I trust. So I
Kind of like
do
a syndication of sorts.
yes, I do lots of syndications, right? In 4 or 5 different syndications. And some have gone better than others, just like anything else. But with the real estate, it's been pretty steady, and I've been very pleased with how that's worked geographically as well. Different investments and different types of investments.
So on our questionnaire, as far as becoming a guest on our policy, you answered yes, that you're familiar with the infinite banking concept. Tell us what your understanding of it is.
Infinite banking. Did I mention that? I think I looked it up when you told me, and when I gave you that thing, I actually, how would I put it? I don't remember what I looked about it. Could you please educate me on it?
So when you answered yes, I figured you'd know. So
I
on
knew
a scale
when
from
I
0
looked
to
it up.
5, it would be a 0.2. That's
Well,
cool.
I looked it up, and you like, wait a second. If you tell me what it is, like, oh yes, I know what that is. Forgive me, because I did look it up afterwards.
Well, I mean, really at the heart of maybe Scott, what would you say at the heart of it?
At the heart of it, it's creating your own banking system so that you are taking and profiting from the interest that gets paid versus giving it all away to a third party.
So similar to your bank notes, right? Or similar to your debt notes, excuse me, that you talked about, that um, everybody needs to store their cash someplace, right? Where you store wealth. And with the infinite banking concept that was started by Nelson Nash, that place that we store the wealth is inside of a whole life insurance policy. It's not something what's there all the time. It's kind of like an opportunity fund, if you will. We put cash there, and then when something comes along, we can have readily get available to us and go after an opportunity, whether that's a franchise, whether that's a real estate deal, whatever it is. But then you become the loaner, right? You become the lender. And so, as I was saying earlier, that's kind of where this whole podcast came from. Is Scott does bridge loans and hard money loans. Together, we have a fund that similar to, it sounds like what you're talking about, Adam, but we have investors, and then we are the lenders on for people to do fix and flips, things like that. And so that's, the infinite banking concepts and what Scott's doing, it's kind of has this overlap. And that's why we have this podcast.
So I'm glad that you mentioned whole life, right? Because I know whole life from back in the day. And I actually was a licensed insurance broker for a short time and got exposed to kind of that industry in general. And for the right person, that can be an amazing opportunity. My understanding too is it's a great thing for the medical field, especially.
Yeah, for the fact that once you put it inside that contract, it's basically bulletproof. I mean, there are no way that someone can sue you and get anything out of it, other than in a divorce, right? Probably the biggest and most famous case that people really don't know about, and then that doesn't sound right, but everybody knows that O.J. Simpson was found not guilty in the criminal trial. But the family brought a civil suit against him, and he was found guilty. And the jury awarded a very, very large judgment, but they never got a penny for the fact that he had his wealth locked up in insurance that was domiciled in Florida, which is one of the good states that protects everything, right? And so, yeah, for the medical field, that some oftentimes have, malpractice stuff, but really anybody that's amassing any amount of wealth needs to have that as part of a plan, if you will. Am I talking right, Scott, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, it's a generator, essentially. For anyone that uses anything, you've got a flow of money, just like a river. We're just putting a generator in it. We're not changing anything in what you do. It's just producing power, giving you more bang to your buck. So just like all of these, like there's protection, there's a return on it, all of that. It really boils down to it's a bank in its simplistic form, and it's designed to help you profit more by what you're already doing.
Which
Very cool.
For me is more time. I'm with you. I want to do what I want, when I want, with whomever I want, as often as I want. That's really what I want to do, because we're talking again, Master Your Millions, accumulating, enjoying. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to enjoy as much of the wealth as I can, and of course have it be generating more, and then be able to pass it on in the right way to the next generation. Oh, we're going a little bit long. Look at the time. Adam, this has been fun. When we get into interviews, sometimes I don't even look at the time. It's like, you have a wealth of knowledge, and I really like the idea when it was proposed to us that you'd be a guest as a franchise coach and consultant. It's like we jumped all over this one because you would be great. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are thinking. There's some people that are graduating from college, this will be their last year. There's people that are sick and tired of their job. There's, all walks of life, and franchising is a potential. And so I want to put a plug for that. I have friends that have been successful. I have friends that have not been successful. And some of it might be in simply that they didn't have someone like you in their life. So everyone, we will put his contact information, of course, a link to his book. And well, Scott, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Wait a second. We're going to need to ask Adam one more question. Adam, what's the next big mountain you're going to climb? And what's the next big goal?
Well, very interesting. I mean, I'm getting older, right? So, I mean, the idea was to always do Everest base camp, right? The Everest high,
Really?
To the base camp, it's like 20,000 feet, right? Or to do Aconcagua would be amazing. But you know what? I'm a girl dad, and it's just not worth it to kind of be away from the girls. So I've got to wait some time on this.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. We've really enjoyed it. Guys, if you would like to connect with our guest, Adam, we will put all of his links in the show notes down below. If you'd like to connect with Jason or I, hit us up on your favorite social media platform. We are happy to take your call, email, whatever it might be. If you enjoyed this episode,
we want to, sorry, I jumped in on you, Scott. Go ahead.
You're good. Just like Jason said, hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. Last, remember that mastering your millions all starts with your mind and your team. Make sure they are the best. We will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to Master Your Millions with Jason and Scott Henderson. Check the show notes for any links or contact information about today's guest. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes.